What's up guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to the incredible update around the Alexander Isak to Liverpool transfer saga, because Isak released a bombshell statement yesterday evening which sent shockwaves across English football and the Premier League, and especially the Liverpool and Newcastle fans. And Newcastle also put out a statement, and we will analyze all of that and what it means for Liverpool going forward, and how likely is it that Isak ends up at Liverpool in this summer transfer window. Let me know your thoughts down below. How did you react when you read the statement and everything, and what do you think about this whole situation? I would love to hear your opinion, and I will give my opinion as well. But first, let's deal with the facts. And Alexander Isak basically blasted Newcastle in his official statement on Instagram, saying that Newcastle broke promises made to him, and that the relationship between the club and Isak can't continue. He said, "I'm proud to be recognized with a place in the PFA Premier League team of the season, and I want to thank my teammates and everyone at Newcastle who has supported me along the way. I'm not at the ceremony. With everything going on, it didn't feel right to be there. I've kept quiet for a long time," he said, "while others have spoken. This silence has allowed people to push their own version of events, even though they know it doesn't reflect what was really said and agreed behind closed doors. The reality is that promises were made, and the club has known my position for a long time. To now act as if these issues are only emerging is misleading. When promises are broken, trust is lost. The relationship can't continue. That's where things are for me right now, and why change is in the best interests of everyone, not just myself." So Alexander Isak basically is saying that he is done with Newcastle United. The trust is broken, the relationship is broken, the trust is lost, and things need to change, not just for Isak, but for Newcastle as well. And of course, the Newcastle and the Newcastle fans didn't take this well at all. Newcastle officials were absolutely furious when they read this statement, and it looks like Isak needs to be sold, because it's embarrassing for everyone concerned, especially for Newcastle United, because the way that they handled this whole transfer saga was like embarrassing, really. And there is a civil war going on inside Newcastle United, because some players are supporting Alexander Isak and some players absolutely hate his guts, and some players are against Alexander Isak as well. And this was during the PFA Player of the Season Awards, which Mo Salah won for the third time in his career, and that's a new record, because no player has won the PFA Player of the Season Award before 3 times, and Mo Salah becomes the first player in Premier League history. So congratulations to Mo Salah. He is the best player in the world, and he was the best player in the Premier League last season without a doubt. And during the ceremony, that's when the Isak statement came out. And you could feel the energy shift in the room, one insider said, because there was a collective "oh" as players checked their phones, and honestly, the looks on their faces were priceless, especially from Liverpool players. There was pure surprise and excitement. It's like everyone knew something big was happening. Michael Edwards has been given the green light by FSG to go for a British transfer record once Newcastle give the nod. Of course, Liverpool are still waiting for Newcastle to make a freaking striker signing. Liverpool and Newcastle officials will meet today to figure out the next steps and to try to improve the relationships going forward. And Fabrizio Romano also confirmed that this move by Alexander Isak makes it absolutely clear. Since July it was clear he only wants Liverpool. He doesn't even want to discuss any other option with Newcastle. He doesn't want to reintegrate into the squad. He doesn't want to train with Newcastle. He doesn't want anything to do with Newcastle United. He wants out. The trust is lost. The relationship is broken. And Liverpool Football Club is the only choice for Alexander Isak. And the Newcastle statement was, I think, very weakly worded. They said that "we are clear in response that Alex remains under contract, and no commitment has ever been made by a Newcastle club official that Alex can leave Newcastle this summer. But Alexander Isak told Newcastle that he wants to leave, and also they promised him a new contract 1 year ago, and then they went back on their promise. They broke that promise, and that's why Alexander Isak fears that the trust is lost and the relationship is broken. A Newcastle statement said, "We want to keep our best players, but we also understand players have their own wishes and we listen to their views. As explained to Alex and his representatives, well, we must always take into consideration the best interests of Newcastle, the team and our supporters in all decisions. And we have been clear that the conditions of a sale this summer have not transpired. We do not foresee those conditions being met. The conditions are Newcastle signing just one striker. Come on, man, how incompetent can you be? That it is now 10 days until the end of the transfer window, or 11 days, and you still haven't signed a striker all summer. Like, that is just embarrassing by Newcastle. And also, of course, Newcastle think that Liverpool should bid 130, 140 million pounds. That is another condition that hasn't been met. But I think the 110 million pounds with like 80 million up front is actually a very good offer by Liverpool. And if Newcastle keep Isak and freeze him out until January, his value will drop by at least 30, 40, maybe even 50 million pounds. They would be lucky to get 100 million pounds for Alexander Isak in January, maybe 70 or 80 million. So right now, they could get the maximum amount of money for Isak. But if they sell only in January or next summer, and I don't think Isak will play until January, because it looks like that this relationship with Newcastle is completely broken. Of course, the Isak statement has not been well received inside Newcastle United, and they have still no intention to sell him. But of course, Eddie Howe always wanted to reintegrate Isak into the squad, because Newcastle think, well, if we don't sign a striker and we just keep Isak, then he will just come back and start playing again for us. But that's a very dangerous game to play, because now Isak has come out with this bombshell statement, basically with claims of broken relationships, broken promises. So it seems to be almost impossible to see Isak play again for Newcastle United, because the fans would absolutely boo him at every opportunity. And also, how would you expect the Newcastle's his teammates, Isak's teammates, to play with him in the same team when he has been out of the squad for months now? He has been out of the training for months. He's basically a stranger now to the other Newcastle players. Probably Isak's main frustration is that Newcastle offered him a contract and then withdrew this offer. They promised him a new contract and then they withdrew the new contract offer. And Isak not only just missed out on 1 year worth of more money, bigger salary, but also he made it clear to Newcastle even 1 year ago that he wants to leave after they withdrew that contract offer, that he wants to leave this summer. Newcastle just then never promised him, maybe, that he will be allowed to leave, but Isak clearly told Newcastle 1 year ago he wants to leave this summer. He told Newcastle 2 weeks before the end of the season that he wants to leave, and at the end of the season he again told Newcastle that he wants to leave. But inside Newcastle United, this Isak statement has left a very sour taste. That's what Craig Hope is reporting. Yes, team spirit remains strong at Newcastle, but there is a divide between the players. Some players support Isak and some players don't. That feeling is part of the reason why Newcastle have made offers on several strikers who could have acted as his replacement. There was an acceptance that for Isak to move on, this could be the best course of action for all parties. And there is a chance now that Newcastle will basically, out of spite, keep him until at least the January transfer window. But that is a very, very risky strategy. And the good news is that Liverpool and Newcastle officials are meeting today to discuss again what to do about this situation. It's so ironic because the Newcastle fans absolutely hate Isak for doing what he's doing, yet the player that they want, Johan Wissa, is doing exactly the same thing. Not going to training at Brentford, going on strike, removing all Brentford stuff from his Instagram. Wissa has gone on strike. He's refusing to play for Brentford. Of course, Newcastle fans, some of them don't like that as well, and they don't like what Isak is doing. And I don't condone what Isak is doing, but I can understand if the trust is broken, if the promises were broken, if trust is lost, if the relationship is done with Newcastle, that I can understand why Isak feels very, very upset at Newcastle, and also how incompetent that they are, that they tried to sign so many strikers and just failed. Newcastle are stressing that one of the reasons why they are not willing to sell Isak right now is that they haven't been able to find a suitable replacement. And also Liverpool's opening bid was short of what Newcastle wanted for Isak, which was around 135 million pounds. So if I were Liverpool right now, I would bid 130 million. Let's see what Newcastle do about that. But of course, if Newcastle had Newcastle managed to sign Ekitike or Sesko, in all likelihood Isak would be already a Liverpool player. The club, of course, have tried too hard to facilitate and give Isak his wish, but they cannot leave themselves without a recognized striker. I don't understand that. But if Newcastle can't sign a striker until September the 1st, then Isak is not going to be a Liverpool player on September the 1st. Then that will be fascinating, because I haven't seen anything like this happen in the Premier League before, that the player goes on strike and comes out with such a strong, harsh statement. And by the way, Liverpool also said that Coutinho is not for sale in the beginning of August 2017, and then we sold him in January for big money. But the problem is that, you know, if Isak doesn't play for Newcastle until January, I mean, it's a problem for Newcastle, then his value will be like this. And the Newcastle statement is not as strong against a sale as I thought it would be. It leaves the door open for, if the right conditions are met, then Isak will be sold. It leaves the door open for Liverpool. If Liverpool meet the valuation or come close to the valuation of Newcastle, which, as I said, probably 135 million pounds, then there is a scenario where Alexander Isak will become a Liverpool player in the next 2 weeks. But Liverpool can't wait forever, because we have right now 4 recognized attackers. Senior attackers, I mean, plus some youngsters. But with Ben Doak sold as well, we only have Rio and Gumoa as backup for Cody Gakpo. We have no backup for Ugo Ekitike, and we have Chiesa as backup for Mo Salah. So if no progress is made by midweek next week, then Liverpool are likely to push onto other targets. This could possibly be the next step in the media briefs. And it's interesting that quite a lot of certain players are available. I would sign a versatile attacker who can play as a striker, as a winger, and who is also young, who doesn't cost a lot of money. And that basically leaves space in the squad for Alexander Isak potentially being signed in the January transfer window, because that is now an increased possibility. But some Newcastle journalists are saying that the reason why Isak is not going to Liverpool is because Liverpool signed Ekitike from under Newcastle's noses. But the problem is that Ekitike is not the Darwin Núñez replacement. Ekitike is the Diogo Jota replacement. May he rest in peace forever, Liverpool's number 20, Diogo, he will never walk alone. Liverpool basically now lost 2 strikers, one to tragic circumstances, and Darwin Núñez informed Liverpool that he wanted to leave at the end of the season, and Luis Diaz made the play to leave, and Liverpool didn't stand a chance once his valuation was met, because Liverpool were comfortable having Cody Gakpo and Rio and Gumoa as the 2 left wingers. But now we lost Jota, we lost Núñez, so we signed Ekitike, who is a Jota replacement, and we want to sign Luis Diaz to be a Darwin Núñez replacement. And the tragic loss of Diogo Jota is the reason why Liverpool pushed so hard to get Ekitike in. It got absolutely nothing with taking Newcastle's Isak replacement. Of course, a lot of Newcastle fans were preaching that they will play 4-4-2 with Ekitike and Isak up front. How is that turning out? Isak is not playing for Newcastle probably for a long time, and Ekitike is a Liverpool player. And Newcastle really need to need to get their things together, because this is turning into a more and more embarrassing situation for them. And if Newcastle United are lying here, that they did indeed make promises to Isak that he was allowed to leave, and by the way, they are run by a murderous regime, Saudi Arabia, who murdered a journalist in their own embassy. Can you honestly not see them just lying and breaking promises to Alexander Isak? But I can also see them just keeping Alexander Isak out of spite, because they have a lot of money. If Newcastle are lying, then the Newcastle fans will demand an internal league investigation on how on earth things have gotten this bad. Basically, having no sporting director, no permanent sporting director, no permanent CEO is why Newcastle are such a shambles in the transfer market. And finally, I wanted to congratulate on Mo Salah winning the Player of the Season award 3 times, which is a record. He also won the Golden Boot 4 times in the Premier League, which is also a record most. And he was the Premier League's Player of the Season twice. And the Football Writers Association Player of the Season was Mo Salah 3 times as well, which is also the record. So Mo Salah is probably the best player the Premier League has ever seen. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. See you later, guys. Goodbye.